Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today is going to be a little bit different. So I wanted to go through what have I DNF'd within the last 3 years since I picked up my reading habits. I just want to be transparent and honest about what I DNF'd. These books are the only books that I have ever DNF'd. It is very hard for me to DNF a book. You know what I mean? I usually am the one that's stubborn and I want to finish a book because I just want to know what happens in the end. But there are some books that got me out of that. I want to finish it and I want to know what happens, and I just didn't push through them. So stick with me and let's go through it together. So the first book I wanted to talk about today is The Ashes and the Star-Cursed King by Carissa Broadbent. And this is the second book in her installment. I have read The Serpent and The Wings of Night. However, I loved the first book. I loved it. I loved everything about it. I also did a whole book review on it. And I was like, okay, let's get to the second book. And I was just so disappointed with the second book. I just felt that I didn't like how the FMC's character development was going. I loved the first book. I loved how she survived. It's kind of like Hunger Games meets Fourth Wing meets, vampires. And I just loved everything about the first book. However, with this second book, I just found that it fell short of what I hoped for the FMC. I felt that I wanted her revenge arc. I wanted her to go for blood. Like, she went through a big betrayal, a huge betrayal. And then now she's just stuck in a castle and is a wife to someone that betrayed her. And I was just getting frustrated with the FMC, and there's plenty of opportunities in the beginning of the book where she can take out her revenge and say, okay, let's do this. But to me, she just felt short of that inspiring FMC that I got in the first book. I found myself having to push through the book and having to pick up the book, and I chose sleep instead of picking up the book. And at that point, I'm like, okay, do I want to torture myself some more? Should I push through it? Days went by and I was like, you know what? This is going to be a DNF. And I felt so saddened. I was disappointed because I really wanted to like the second book and I actually wanted to read the rest of the sequel to this. So yeah, there's not much I can say about that. But let me know in the comments if you did read the second book all the way through and if you liked it. So yeah, let me know. So the second book that I DNF'd in the last 3 years is, I'm probably gonna get pitchforks for this one and I'm probably gonna get canceled before I even took off on YouTube. But it's Ugly Love by Colleen Hoover. I wanted to like this book. I picked up this book around maybe 2 years ago, and I was in my Colleen Hoover era at the time. I was postpartum, and when I read Verity and It Starts With Us, I kind of wanted to read more of her work, and I delved into that rabbit hole. This book I did not like. The reason why I didn't like this book is because it is supposed to be a romance book. And I felt that the two main characters, which was, I think it was Tate and Miles, if I remember correctly. And I remember a specific scene in the book where, they're doing the deed and everything is, by the way, this book is basically friends with benefits and only the benefits. Anyway, I just know for a fact, because I stopped reading after the scene, that Miles and Tate were doing the deed, and then all of a sudden he says Rachel's name, which is not, the FMC's name. And I was like, what? And on top of the MMC not saying the FMC's name during sex, he said another woman's name, yes, but she was like, it's okay, just finish. I was speechless, okay? I was like, what do you mean let him finish? I would have gotten my grown woman ass up, left, never came back, and sayonara, because that could never be me. I felt like Tate, the FMC, had no backbone. I felt that she was just allowing things. I mean, I know they had an agreement, but she was just allowing a lot of things that I just know women wouldn't let slide, okay? And I felt like she acted as his therapist, wanting to fix a man. Like, I didn't connect with this book at all. I thought I was reading a romance book, and I'm like, okay, clearly this man loves another woman. So how does this fit in with the FMC and the MMC? I was just confused. Like, their arrangement was to sleep together, yes, but he was in love with another woman. Anyway, I just couldn't read after that. I was like, I wanted character development. I wanted more of like a romance development between two people. I'm not saying that there shouldn't be like a third person in there, but clearly he was in love with another woman, and I'll just leave that there. But yes, this is the second book that I DNF'd, and I don't regret it. I know a lot of people praise this book, and I am sorry if you are one of those people that love this book. It's just, in my mind, as a adult, as you know, I'm in my 30s, I just couldn't, and at the time that I read it, I was in my late 20s. I just couldn't fathom what was being written here. But yeah, that is just my opinion. I'm sorry if this is your favorite book. If this is your favorite book, let me know in the comments below. I don't mind hearing out other opinions. Reading is always subjective. Okay, so the third book that I have ever DNF'd in the last 3 years is It Starts With Us. And I know that It Ends With Us was a good book. I did think that It Ends With Us was a good book prior to the whole movie adaptation years ago. However, I just didn't feel like there was a need for this book. I felt that if it was left as it was, I think would have had resonance. I feel like it didn't need a sequel. And even though I did pick this up, I still felt that halfway through the book, I'm like, okay, like, where's Ryle? Like, they're supposed to be co-parenting. I want the drama behind Ryle and Lily. And I just felt like it was just too easy with Ryle. Like, he went down real easy. I just didn't think that Atlas needed a redemption. He was the redemption in the first book. And the plot with his brother came out of nowhere. I don't know, I just didn't feel like Atlas, like we needed to uncover anything crazy about Atlas. Just leave him as a hero and just leave him be. And the last thing I want to say about this book is the writing to Ellen DeGeneres was just a little bit cheesy in my opinion. I find that a grown woman writing to Ellen DeGeneres, like, yeah, it was just, I don't know, it was just too many weirdness. But the letters to Ellen DeGeneres was kind of like cringy a little bit. I don't know. I just think that this didn't need a sequel. This book didn't need to exist at all. And that is just my personal opinion. I just think things should be left alone. Okay, the next book, and you guys are gonna think that I'm going on a Colleen Hoover dive, but I'm really not. Like, these are books, and it's just not just her books, but these are books that in the last 3 years I have DNF'd completely, okay? But next book on the list is Reminders of Him. I couldn't get through the first 3 chapters. I just couldn't. I went through the first 3 chapters. I didn't care to pick it up. I didn't care to read it. I literally collected dust on my nightstand. I left it there for days, possibly weeks. I don't feel guilty about it. It's just the truth, the honest truth. I literally left the book there, didn't care for it, moved on to another piece of literature. that I enjoyed more. I was expecting to straight up indulge in this book. There was a lot of hype around this book. I picked it up and I was just so excited about it. And then I was just disappointed with the first 3 chapters. I was probably looking to romance like the other book, The Ugly Love book, and I couldn't find it here. I was just like, okay, this woman is clearly out of prison. She wants to get her daughter back. That's great. Love a redemption. Love a turnaround for someone like that. And this woman was in a sucky situation. And I commend her for getting her act together, cleaning herself up, and wanting her daughter back, wanting a life back with her. But I just didn't see romance in this book. I was disinterested. However, I am a very mood-driven reader. So did I feel like reading about someone's sucky situation at the time and thinking, I want romance? No, I wanted romance, and I wanted it to be kind of different. I expected it to be different maybe. And then I got to thinking, how is romance gonna fit into this woman who is trying to get herself together, who's trying to get herself situated, you know? But yeah, after 3 chapters, I was just kind of done. I was bored with it. I didn't see a reason why I needed to pick it back up. But yeah. Okay, the next book on the list, Pitchforks Ready. November 9, Colleen Hoover. I'm just waiting for the tomatoes, that's all. But this book, I don't even know where to begin. So this book starts off with the MMC inserting himself in a conversation between the FMC and her father, and they're at a restaurant, and the father is very verbally abusive to this young lady. And then the MMC decides to insert himself into the conversation and say, oh yeah, I'm the boyfriend. That is such an ick. I'm sorry, that is such an ick. I was just like, okay. And then I was like, all right, fine. All right, that's kind of cheesy, but let's continue. Let's digress. So then I saw that this character was literally undressing the FMC with his eyes, and it's kind of weird because they've never met, and she is also a burn victim, so she has scars. And then he starts to fantasize, I guess, about how she would look naked and how much of her body is covered in those scars. And I don't know about y'all, but that gave me the ick, because who thinks like this? Like, who thinks to themselves, oh yeah, I want to see this person naked and I want to see how much of their body is burned? My jaw hit the floor, y'all. My jaw hit the floor, because how is that possible? And maybe he was just curious about the scars, but to tie that into sexualizing it, I don't know how I feel about that. I just felt weirded out about it. And then I realized that Colleen Hoover uses a lot of self-confidence issues with her FMCs most of the time. You know, as I progressed in reading her books, I realized that was the case, and I don't know if that's my kind of trope. I also like to read about female empowerment and bold females and females who don't bend the knee. And I feel that she writes a lot of her books with just self-confidence. And I understand a lot of us have self-confidence issues. I myself had self-confidence issues, especially before I lost 102 pounds. I couldn't be in front of a camera, and I stalled, and I didn't think to do a YouTube channel back then. However, I did regain my confidence back. I did work on my weight. I worked hard, Pilates, you know, all these different things. And I got my pink back after I gave birth. However, her characters are just always self-confidence troped. And like I said, I'm a mood reader, but I had to cut this one short. I was like, I don't like it. I don't like it. Nope. The next book on the list is one that I read on Kindle, and I was like, oh, it's new. Let's read it. So this one is There's Something About Mira by, I think, hopefully I'm saying her name correctly, Sonali Sonali Dev. And this book I picked up and I wanted to give it a chance. It's supposed to be romance and it felt short for me. I read through maybe a quarter of it and it was boring. I found myself drifting asleep in bed. And when a book is really interesting to me, I am in bed, yes, but I am reading. And this book just didn't cut it for me. And it was about a ring that was found. This girl found the ring, and then it was this whole thing. And I just felt like everybody was just insufferable. And I don't know. And then the book kept going back to, I guess, the storyline between two lovers in India, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong. But then it goes back to the present, back to the past, back to the present. And it didn't interest me. And I was very curious and I had to DNF because I just wasn't having fun. I'm a big believer that if you're not having fun with the book, if you're not enjoying it, then that calls for a DNF and you shouldn't feel guilty about it. However, I do sometimes push myself to finish a book when I'm like, okay, but I want to know how this ends. This was one of the books that I just didn't vibe with at all. And that is okay. Maybe someone else can vibe with it. All right, and now we are going into the last book that I have DNF'd in the last 3 years. And that is Things We Hide from the Light by Lucy Score. Yeah, so I did in fact read Things We Never Got Over. However, I did read this whole thing. I liked it. A lot of family drama, a lot of things going on. Very, very slow burn. Very slow burn. But I finished it and I was like, okay, great. Happily ever after in some ways, right? However, with this book, I just felt that I wasn't interested in the storyline. I just wasn't. I took this book, I remember, to my OBGYN office. I took this book everywhere with me, and I always found myself reading a chapter and being like, okay, all right, if I must read today. that's how it felt picking up this book, and it's pretty thick. So this is a 574 page book. Yeah, there was no way. There was no way I was continuing something that it bored me. I think that she should have left it at the first book. This one, she should have left it here, and that would have been great. I don't think it needed a sequel, in my opinion. I think this one should have been just a no. I couldn't finish this. I probably read, I'll tell you right now, probably like 120 pages. So, because I got to chapter 11 or like around chapter 11. I couldn't do it. I couldn't finish it. I couldn't get into it. There was just no way. If you did read this book and finished it, let me know in the comments. But this was just one of those books that Cardi B right here. I just couldn't see myself finishing. I just couldn't. So in conclusion to this little DNF haul, I don't know if I should even call it a DNF haul. I think that if you have read these books and you love them, that's great. I'm happy you loved it. I, on the other hand, they felt short for me. I don't think I could have forced myself to read these books if I wanted to. I tried. I just couldn't pick them back up. Sometimes some books give me the ick. If a book gives me the ick in the beginning, I'm just kind of like, okay, but it just deters me from reading them. And I seldom DNF books. I DNF'd 7 books in the last 3 years, and that should tell you about my character as far as DNFing. I hate DNFing books. I want to open books and read them and enjoy them. If you find yourself not enjoying something, or if something gives you the ick, or if something just isn't vibing with you, it is okay to DNF. It is okay to say, you know what, I can't push myself past the first couple of chapters. That is completely fine. However, I will say that I do find myself pushing certain books because I'm thinking, okay, things will probably get better, or I want to push through books to give you guys a transparent and honest review about what I felt about them. This video is in no disrespect to any author or anyone that has read these and love them. I'm glad and I'm happy that you love these books if you did read them and you loved them. I hope that everyone that picks up a book and loves the book. However, this was my experience with these books, and like I said, reading is very subjective. So if you found these books to be amazing, that is awesome, and I am very happy for you. However, these books just didn't find a way to my heart, and that is okay as well. And I just want to say that it is okay if you DNF'd it. It is okay if you read it and you loved it. And with that, let me know in the comments if you did read any of these. What did you think? Let me know. Let's talk. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for your support. Don't forget to subscribe for more content. I appreciate you guys and see you next time.